You're listening to the Hidden Killers podcast with Tony Bruschi.
Entitlement is a scary thing when people feel they're entitled to something that is not theirs. Just because. Or because of a bloodline. Or because, well, you said you'd do that for me a long time ago. It happens quite a bit with wills. People feeling very entitled to getting money, getting property, doing this, doing that. And sometimes the harsh reality is once that person dies and you find out what's in that will, you might not necessarily be as highly regarded as you thought by that person who is deceased. The result of this taking place in this next story ends with a daughter being convicted of murdering a father and his girlfriend after being cut out of the will. It happened in Ocean County, New Jersey, rather, after more than 2 years of legal proceedings. Sherry Lee Heffernan, 57, found guilty by a grand jury of stabbing and the shooting deaths of her father, John Jack Enders, who was 87, and his longtime live-in girlfriend, Frenchy, Pitoy, 75. Heffernan, a real estate agent, was charged in October of 2021 with a double homicide, which rocked the quiet community. Heffernan, at that time, 55 years old, vehemently claiming innocence as she was escorted out of court in October of 2021, asserting, "I am being framed." However, authorities maintain that Heffernan was driven by resentment after being excluded from her father's will and denied the opportunity to sell his house. The prosecution presented evidence indicating Heffernan's involvement, including surveillance footage showing her recreational vehicle, or RV, traveling to her father's residence on the night of September 29th, 2021. Additionally, her cell phone activity was traced along the route. Furthermore, 3 footprints matching Heffernan's were discovered in blood-stained areas of the home's kitchen floor. Investigators detailed Heffernan's movements on the night of the murders, describing how she parked her RV nearby and proceeded on foot to her father's home carrying an orange bag and wearing oversized clothing. According to surveillance footage capturing her crossing the Long Beach Island Bridge, she returned to her RV and then left the area. The victims, Pitoy and Enders, were found brutally murdered in their home after Pitoy's daughter raised concerns about their welfare. Enders had been shot in the jaw, stabbed 51 times, according to testimony at Heffernan's nearly 4-week trial. Pitoy has also been shot in the jaw at point-blank range and stabbed 39 times, while the victims were found on October 3rd, 2021. Investigators have long said the elderly couple, who had dated for about 15 years, was actually killed several days earlier. Neighbors describe Pitoy and Enders as a devoted couple who had been together for nearly 2 decades. However, tensions arose within the family when Enders refused to let Heffernan sell his house and excluded her from his will. Heffernan's son reportedly informed authorities that she had made a sudden visit to her father's home when he described as a midnight dash. The surveillance camera captured her leaving the property in the Winnebago before 1 a.m. on September 29th, 2021, and returning about 8 p.m. Prosecutors allege she drove to her father's home, committed the murders, drove home in that time frame. Surveillance video tracked her Winnebago along the route to and from Enders' home, and Weatherstone said Heffernan's cell phone was tracked along the very same route. Following a nearly 4-week-long trial, jurors convicted Heffernan on 2 counts, each of murder, possession of a weapon for an unlawful purpose, and unlawful possession of a weapon. She now faces the prospect of life imprisonment, with her sentencing now scheduled for May 10th of 2024. It's a scary thing when someone feels that entitled to something that they're going to go and take one out.
My God, between the two of them, that was almost 100 stab wounds.
That's a crime of passion.
That is so, that's just overkill. Like, she was so angry.
Yeah.
And, here she's driving an RV. So that kind of narrows it down. We're looking for an RV. And she's got an RV leaving her house. I'm going to guess there is toll roads. They were able to track the RV.
Yeah.
There's video footage of it near his house. Her cell records track along the route. And she's like, I didn't do it.
Yeah.
Whose Winnebago was that then?
Winnebago
You just
Man's.
happened to have one just like it.
She bought it from Winnebago Man on the documentary. There are cases, never am I advocating someone murder anyone, but there are cases where elderly people are taken advantage of by other people, and then children are written out of wills, and money then goes to a new lover or a new girlfriend or the kids of the new lover or the new girlfriend, and it's not right. And quite often, courts will still side with the individual who signed that over, stating it's their life, they can do what they want to do, but then you have to prove, that they're not in the right state of mind.
And often they're not.
I in my family, it happened with a person years ago, and it was really kind of crazy. It was nuts. Because you watch these people, family members, taking care of and loving this person, despite the horrible ways that they had treated them throughout their life, being abusive and all sorts of horrible shit. But no one was forgiving for money. No one was there to do that. It was more so trying to have a relationship and trying to mend bridges. But then at the end of the day, another individual came into that person's life, and suddenly, oh, look at this. They're in dementia, and now their will is changed. And then what happened in the case in my family was the individual died. Everything went to the other woman who stepped in, who had been there lingering for a while. She died pretty quickly after, and then all the assets went to the other woman's family that no one knew whatsoever. And it's not about money. I mean, it is to a certain extent, but it's more about the rightful placement of where these things go, and that going to the people you'd want it to if you were in your right state of mind. That's why it's so important to have those sort of things in stone somewhere prior to one getting into that sort of state. Like if you discover, oh shit, you have early onset dementia or something, get that shit lined up and in order before it gets too bad. And make sure no one can change it, and make sure it's going where you want it to go. Because if you have assets, guaranteed, there will be people lining up for them, including your family.
Oh, yeah.
That may or may not be entitled to them.
In this case, I think a nephew. He had left most everything to a nephew.
Yeah.
And, considering what she was convicted of, that's probably that kind of behavior, not to that extent, but she had exhibited, I'm going to guess, some pretty crazy behaviors.
Yeah.
And he wrote her out of the will, and she wanted to sell his house so she could make the commission, and he didn't allow that.
Yeah.
And I think so. I think this whole thing was driven by greed, and now look where it got her.
You got to be careful if you have assets who you have close to you.
Mm-hmm.
Especially as you get up there, because there will be people that are trying to take advantage of that. And it sounds like that was certainly happening here. It's sad. It's scary. The lengths greed will take people to.
Want to listen ad-free? Want advance access to all of our interviews before anyone else?
Become a True Crime Today Premium Plus subscriber on Apple Podcasts.
You get every episode commercial-free.
So you can binge on true crime
until you can binge no more.
Search True Crime Today Premium Plus on Apple Podcasts now, or go to our podcast page and sign up now.
More of the Hidden Killers podcast next.